Lorcana's biggest tournament, hosted by Lorcana HQ, has been going on for the last couple of weeks, and these are the top 8 deck lists going into the top 8 of the event. Now, the event is still ongoing, and they just started top 8 now as I'm making this video, so if you guys want to keep in touch with any of that, I'll leave the Discord to Lorcana HQ in the description of the video. But other than that, let's go right into this first one, which is, no surprise, Amethyst Ruby. Now this is a 64 card deck list, which I think is good because it's good for the mirror match, because a lot of the time it can come down to who will draw their whole deck first and lose to deck out. And also there's a popular mill deck going around, which this kind of count as that as well. So the deck mainly struggled with aggro before, but it seems like we're going for Befuddle and 1-drops now to kind of counter that. So Befuddle, you can bounce the 1-drops, and then just playing a solid 1-free stat line can tank out a lot of the other 1-drops. We're seeing 2 Shield of Virtues, which is an interesting inclusion. Some lists are opting for Shield, some lists aren't. Me personally, I like the Shield. We see 2 Magic Mirrors, which in my opinion is quite a low count on Magic Mirror. We see normally 3, but I guess if you don't want to run too many Uninkables, then 2 is fine. We see 3 Gaston with a huge stat line. It's really good at dealing with Cuscos in the aggro matchup. 2 Cauldrons to kind of keep the consistency going. 3 Elses, which is really good because you can use them to eventually shift into the 8-cost ones, and also just exerting a chosen character is really strong. And then we're seeing some Pocket Watches. They're picking up a lot of traction recently. I think just paying 1 to give any character rush is really good, especially when you combine it with Elsa just being able to exert any of the chosen targets, and it's a really strong combo. And then we see obviously 4 Maleficents, which draws a card, 4 Friends on the other side, which draws 2 cards, 2 Rafikis, we see 3 Aladdins, which is good for slowing down aggro, 2 Hand Jafars, which are really good, just big stat lines and also quest for 2, and there's also Inkable, so why not. 4 Dragonfires, only 2 Queens, which is quite interesting. Normally we're seeing 4 Queens, I think just the consistent card draw of it is quite important. 4 Mauis, 4 Be Prepared, 3 of the Shift Aladdins, 2 of the Mickey Mouses, which are really good late game bombs, and 3 of the Shift Elsas, and then 4 Maleficents to keep the ball control. Overall, really solid list, definitely in my opinion the best deck in the game, and there's been quite a lot of controversy around it, but I definitely think this is the best deck in the game. Maybe not this 64, maybe there'll be another 60 that's discovered later on down the line, but I think the concept is definitely there. So the second deck we've got is Amethyst Ruby again. Again playing the Befuddles and the 1-drops. We see no Magic Mirrors in this list, which is quite surprising to me. I feel like you kind of need the Magic Mirrors, but you do still have a lot of card draw in the Queen, Maleficent, Friends on the other side, and the 2 Ursulas. But this is more of a late game kind of Ruby Amethyst list. We see a lot more of the bigger cards, 4 Maleficent, 4 Mickeys, 4 Elsas, all of that. We're playing less for the early game. We've also seen the Jet Sam to deal with the evasive matchup, which is quite important. But other than that, just a pretty standard Amethyst Ruby list. Also, all the links to these decks will be in the description as well. Then we see Amethyst Emerald. Again, we see Befuddle. Maybe this is one of those super slept on cards. It's really good for dealing with early game, whether you're defending or whether you're on the aggression. We see Zeus, which is a uninkable 4/4 basically. It has Challenger 4 and it can quest for 2, so it's a really good aggro tool to control the board kind of if you need to, or just just to quest for a lot. And then we see 4 of the free quest hands, 4 Cuscos, 4 Mad Hatters. We see card draw of Maleficent and Friends on the other side. We see the Elsa again. We see Cruella to bounce. We see Flynn Rider to discard cards from the enemy's hand. And then we see 2 Genies, 2 Movagoth Elves, and 4 John Silvers. So quite a heavy top side for an aggro list. Overall I really like it, and it's definitely got top 8, so it's definitely showed itself as being a strong contender. And then we see Sapphire Ruby. This was one of the decks that was really strong before Ruby Amethyst was really discovered, and it's a lot easier as well. You don't play any card draw other than the Robin Hood, so your plan is to basically ramp up and then just draw a big card and play it basically. You play Maui for that mid-game ball control, and then you play cards like Be Prepared and Hades and Maleficent for that late game, just kind of dominance really. You just play big cards and then you eventually just quest out and play bigger cards than your opponent and win that way. So yeah, a really strong list, and I'm glad to see it still doing quite well since it fell off once people kind of discovered Ruby Amethyst. Then we see Steel Emerald. This is a really interesting combination, not one that I've tried to be honest, but basically I think that the game plan is kind of you use the board control tools of Steel with the aggression of Emerald, and then you kind of have this really good mid-range kind of style deck which can control the board, go really fast, and it should have a good matchup against a lot of aggro decks. and it should also have like that mid-range kind of like the mid-range potential as well. So a really interesting list, definitely one I'm going to try out, and hopefully it does well in the top 8. And then we see the most interesting list on this whole top 8, and this is Tamatoa items. So basically what you want to do is you want to ramp up really hard, and then play Maurice, and then just spam out your items, and then just play big Tamatoas to quest for a lot, and you have the board control of Be Prepared, Hades, Maleficent, and Maui, and Dragonfire. And you also run a lot of interesting tech options, so you have free Sword of Truce, which banishes a chosen villain character, and free Poison Apples, which can banish a chosen princess. So you can ink these cards if they're not in the matchup with a Fishbone Quill, or they can come in really handy and just banish a chosen character from your opponent's deck. This deck is definitely going to be difficult to play, because you're going to have to really show like your matchup knowledge compared to like when you play other decks, mainly for the villains and the princesses. But other than that, you kind of just want to play Maurice, play a bunch of items, draw a lot of cards, and then just drop a big Tamatoa, and that's kind of the game plan. So it looks really fun, and I'll definitely be giving this one a go. And then we see Emerald Ruby. We see it's kind of like an evasive list. Now I'm quite big on evasives, so we see no shield in this list for the Cusco, which I think is totally fine. I think LeFou is strictly better, to be honest. But we do see the 2 Dragonfires, the Genies, and the Mauis, but we do see 3 Beasts, which is kind of like 3 extra Mauis in a way. Kind of does a similar thing, apart from it's uninkable and has like worse stats. But it's interesting to see that this deck kind of like prioritizes that big mid-game card that we see with the Genie and the Maui normally, and they've added the Beast. But other than that, it looks like a really solid list, just a straightforward aggro list. Kind of just want to like play your cards, quest them, and you have a lot of bounce with the Corella, the Mother Knows Best, and the Genie and stuff like that. So a pretty solid list. I'll definitely try this one out. And then we see in the last list, we see Ruby Steel, not one that I've tried personally, and this list looks a bit funky, to be honest. We see free Mulan, which when it banishes a character, it gives all your other characters +1 quest. So I'm assuming you kind of just want to build up like a wide board, get Mulan out, get a banish with Mulan, and then just like quest for a lot. We do see 1 Maui, 1 8-cost Maui. Honestly, I've probably just run an Aladdin in the spot and just go up to 4 Aladdins. We also see 2 Tekars, I think that's how you pronounce it. Whenever that challenges and banishes a character, you can gain 2 lore. So I guess it's pretty good, and obviously it's done really well to make it to the top 8. So yeah, that's the top 8 for the Lorcana HQ August tournament. Definitely the biggest one we've had so far. It capped out 128 players. Some really interesting lists and some not so surprising lists with the Ruby Amethyst. But if any of these lists interest you, just leave me a comment and I'll try to make a deck guide on them. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.